Hey everyone, I just finished watching the next VR Troopers episode. I forgot the name. Let me look it up here. Da, 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 da. Computer Captive. Okay, now I remember. This is a really good episode. Among these really early VR Trooper episodes, I haven't seen any like really super bad ones or anything. Most of these episodes have been really, really good. But this episode in particular, I just love this, and I would have loved if this was the direction they took for the majority of the series. I don't think it is, though my memory might be fuzzy because I haven't watched VR Troopers in a while. So this is my first time watching this episode in quite some time. I really enjoyed this. So summary: it starts off with the troopers are hanging out at a pool, and then Carl Zichter, meanwhile, gets an idea to use computers in his latest plan. Okay. So the pool thing doesn't connect to Carl Zichter Grimlord's evil plan for this episode, which is nice. Although I don't know, it's a weird thing to describe. Like, so far, the setup seems to be the troopers do something, and then Carl Zichter, Grimlord, do something in retaliation of that, related to something they're doing vaguely. But this time, the pool stuff is just pure character moments. It doesn't tie in with the overall plot. You could cut it, and the plot wouldn't suffer. Carl Zichter's. This episode could have just started with Carl Zichter planning on using computers uh, as part of his plan. So in one thing, like I am happy that they stopped doing Grimlord hears the troopers doing something, and so he's like, "Well, I'm gonna do that too." And I am happy they stopped that, but I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I don't know what I'm talking about. Back to this thing. He goes to virtual reality and talks to Icebot, and Icebot tells him that he's developed a way to trap people inside of computers. Okay, cool. So then Caitlin and JB go to the newspaper place, and they meet with Woody, who's getting super into a football computer game, and I'm really curious if anybody out there knows what game it is that he's playing. It looks like an old NES style football game, although it's on a computer, so I'm assuming it's a computer game. He has this like joystick controller, which I do recognize from like old computer games. You could plug a joystick in, it looks like one of those. But I don't know for sure, it could just be a prop. So anyway, da, 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 da. Okay. So then in virtual reality, Icebot tells Grimlord he's ready to trap someone in the computer, and Grimlord tells him to trap JB, who is currently using the computer at the newspaper place. And so then Icebot appears on the computer screen and then like sucks JB in through the screen. Caitlin sees, and let's see. Then we see JB being held by Grimlord in Grimlord's virtual reality dimension or whatever. He's being held up by these lightning thingies. Anyway, uh, I'm wondering, is this a reference to something, or was this like a visual they took from Metalder or Spielbahn? Because it really feels like something they might have taken from there. Uh, the weird like dimension that JB is in, it's not like the dark dimension in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, although it is kind of similar. They have these like pillars and this like stone wall that's supposed to kind of look like Grimlord's like main base that they usually show. The lighting's the same. It's all dark. It's got this kind of like reddish brown look to it. Um, anyway, the weird thing with it is there's no monsters around, and Grimlord's base is always so cluttered with monsters. I feel like they probably could have put like a few like just in the foreground with JB, because like I know they don't have any of the Metalder or Spielbahn monsters. Let's see. I'm trying to remember if they act. I think all they have is the Skugs at this point. They don't have any of the monster suits. The monster suits were long gone by this point, like deteriorated or being like in a museum or something at this point in Japan. So I don't think they actually had any access to any of the monster suits. But I feel like because VR Troopers does have some blatant reuse of Power Ranger stuff, the Battle Grid suits. So it made me wonder, why didn't they just take a couple of Power Ranger monsters and just have them shot from behind? Like, when they're shot from behind, it makes them less easy to recognize. And if they really wanted to make them blend in, they could, like, I don't know, paint the back of them black or brown or something so that they kind of appear like silhouettes. I don't know, just a thing I was thinking about, because later on in Power Rangers and other Saban shows, they would get really blatant with reusing old costumes and props to the point where it really doesn't feel like they cared if people recognized them. One of the most popular episodes of Power Rangers, Forever Red, blatantly reuses Beetleborg suits and acts like it's totally normal, and no one's gonna recognize these. Okay, anyway, back to the thing. Let's see. Ryan's training with Tao at Tao Dojo, and Caitlin runs in to tell him what happened. They try to contact Professor Hart through the computer, but then Icebot appears on the computer screen. Caitlin tells Ryan to turn it off because she saw Icebot's face appear on the computer screen right before JB was kidnapped. So then, let's see. Oh yeah, they're trying to figure out a plan of what to do, and then three people come into the dojo, all wearing sunglasses. They're Skugs in disguise. We get a brief little battle with them, and then Ryan and Caitlin go to Hart's lab and ask Hart for help, and they don't want to risk using the computer, so Hart has them use their VR visors, and for some reason Jeb wants to be included too, so they give Jeb a VR visor, which is a cute little funny moment for Jeb. I do like Jeb isn't a major character in this, but I do like how he's worked in. It's a bit better than, like, him answering the troopers at the lab. That's kind of weird. I do wonder, why does Jeb hang out at the lab? Where does Ryan live, anyway? You'd think Jeb would, like, stay there. Whatever. Anyway, back to this. Oh, I lost my place. Okay, there it is. They find JB's location, they make a plan. Ryan's going to transform and let Icebot pull him through the computer. It works, Ryan's in Grimlord's dungeon, and Ryan fights through some of the monsters there, and then Grimlord teleports away. Oh, cool. It was a neat little scene. We usually see him come in. We don't usually see him leave, so that's pretty... I think this is the first time we see him actually leave, so that's cool to see. So anyway, Ryan is able to free JB, they escape, and then Grimlord is suddenly back in the base, even though they kind of focused on him leaving. Whatever. And then he tells the monsters, follow them, and so then they're following Ryan and JB. JB hides behind a rock. He's too weak from being drained by the lightning thingies, and so Ryan goes to fight one of the monsters on his own. He defeats the monster, and then he takes JB to the lab, and at the lab, Professor Hart restores JB's energy, and happy ending, everything's fine. So it was a really cool episode. Let's see. One of the things I really like with this, it's a problem that I've had in the last couple of episodes where it feels like they're trying to shove a lesson into the episode that really doesn't need to be there. The last couple of episodes, they would usually have something going on in the civilian plot to parallel something in the monster footage, the Japanese superhero stuff. And it's usually done really sloppily, like it doesn't fit. Like in Oh Brother, when we had the two brothers who were arguing, Ryan can't get them to work together, and then at the end, they suddenly do work together because, I don't know, we never saw them work together anywhere else in the episode. It's not like they learned anything. And then also, to parallel that, we have the couple of monsters who are brothers, and they argue, although it's really obvious it's not... Their scenes weren't shot with the intention of them arguing. There's only one scene where they actually harm each other due to them not being in sync, and that's more Ryan's ingenuity than like a major mistake on their part because of their flawed personalities or whatever. Anyway, it's just really weak, and I don't like that. It's like, these are fine episodes, but that's just a slight annoyance, and this episode doesn't have that. We don't have any, like, civilian character shoved in just to be there, to stretch out the time. Everything, like, I don't know, everything is paced really well in this episode, and like the pacing of it, the tone of it, just everything about this episode feels more like a straightforward adventure story, like I'm assuming Metalder was. So, oh, and like I said at the beginning, Grimlord's plan this episode is his own plan. It's not inspired at all by anything the VR Troopers are doing. Let's see. The only thing that I think might have helped connect the civilian stuff to the Japanese stuff a little better is if Slashbot, the robot that fights Ryan at the end and who's a prominent monster throughout this episode, if he was the one who had the ability to pull people through the computer. But I'm guessing maybe they didn't want to give him a definitive defeat, because a lot of the monsters kind of just hang around inside Grimlord's base and we see them again and again. So, and he gets destroyed in this episode. Maybe they just didn't want to draw extra attention to him and make him too memorable. Or maybe they just wanted to, use Icebot to, help build the connection that Icebot is a part of the show. Icebot was originally from the Spielbahn footage, not the Metalder footage, and this episode focuses primarily on Metalder's stuff with Ryan. Let's see. Looking through my notes here. Oh yeah, one of the things that is a little bit disappointing with this episode is Caitlin is pretty much left out of all the action. She witnesses JB get sucked into the computer, she tells Ryan, and then most of the episode is just her, just as an onlooker, not really taking active part in the action or in the story. Which isn't too bad in this case, because she does go and she tells Ryan. She knows what's going on, but it just feels like this is the part where them using footage from two different shows really hurts the show, because only Ryan is in the Metalder footage they can use. Even though they have an American suit for Caitlin, and they have an American suit for Ryan, only Ryan is in the footage fighting the monster, so they don't have anything for Caitlin to do. I was thinking what they could have done to make this work a little better is have Caitlin transform, and then, have her and Ryan infiltrate Grimlord's base. Have Ryan fight the monsters, and then have Caitlin fight the Skugs in that set that they made for JB, or that they had where JB is. And so then they escape, and then Caitlin takes JB back to Heart's lab because he's too weak to go on his own, leaving Ryan behind to fight the monster. I think that would help incorporate her into the story better, and also help, because this is a superhero show, we want to see the heroes transform into superheroes. Yeah, that's about it for this one. It's a really good episode. I really love this one. I'd love if there were more episodes of VR Troopers like this that aren't trying to push a lesson for the characters to learn that isn't, or most of the things, it wasn't even a lesson for the characters, the main characters. It was these side characters who are total one-offs and don't mean anything to the overall story. They don't really mean anything to the characters. So, yeah, I'm fine with just doing away with them, get rid of the side characters, and focus on the troopers, because they're the interesting characters. They're the main characters. See, what's the next episode that we got here? Caitlin's Little Helper. I think I remember that one. Can't remember it too well. Oh well, guess I'll see it, when I get around to watching it. So, yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.